Hey guys, it is Mr. Dave with the RayKitty Creation Workshop, and this is the RayKitty Science Project. Thanks for watching. This is the second part of a two-part kind of mini little series thing there on crystallization. So if you're watching this, you can check it out now, and then you can go back, find the other episode to see kind of how we put some of these together. But this is the second part. If you're like, how are those already done? Then you can see in our last episode how we actually began these crystallization processes. Now, these have not been forming for a week in between these episodes. We just filmed the other episode here with the help of the wonderful crew here at Studio 519. Thank you guys are amazing. But we just filmed the last episode and we're jumping right into this one. So these crystals have really only been forming for about half hour. Okay, if you're forming crystals at home, now that's not this one here. Yeah, but this is, or these ones. But these ones up here have only been forming for about a half hour. Now, if you're forming them at home and you started them last episode, check them out now because you might have some serious crystals formed. We have some very, very tiny crystals and some of these processes may not have even begun yet. And so that's what we're going to look at when we're looking at these. So the crystals that we have are Epsom salt, which is also known as not borax. If you were watching the last episode, I called this Epsom salt borax like 1,000 times. So this one here is Epsom salt, not borax. This one here is our regular table salt, okay, or plain salt. This one is our actual borax, and this one is sugar. Okay, no, this one is sugar, this one is borax. Okay, so man, I call everything borax. So this one is not borax, not borax, not borax, borax. Let's go with that. Okay, so I also have those crystals here. We looked at the crystals under the microscope with a lower power microscope last time. We're going to check them out with a little bit higher power and look at those crystals a little bit. If you remember, our different crystals had different shapes, different colors, and different characteristics to them. A crystal, as we said last time, is when a solid begins to form and it forms in patterns. Okay, the patterns can form a snowflake, the patterns can form ice, the patterns can form any of these crystals here. But when those molecules lattice together and they do it in a pattern, that pattern is crystallization. Okay, and there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with crystallization. So we started them last week, and if you made yours at home last week, you've probably got some awesome crystals. Send me a picture of your crystals. Just email me, mrdave@raykitty.com. Say, hey, here's a picture of some crystals that I made. I would love to see the crystals that you made. Or comment if you're watching this later. Comment on the video, hey, I made crystals and it came out great. Or I made crystals and it really didn't work, okay? And then maybe I can help you figure out how it worked. So the crystals that we have here, we're going to look at these different crystals, and then we're going to look at some crystals that have been forming for a little bit longer time, okay? So we're going to start out, we looked at the crystals under lower power last time. We're going to check out these same crystals. This is that little tray of crystals that we had before, and we are going to look at these crystals under the higher powered microscope, okay? So I'm going to, you'll notice I don't have them on a fancy Petri dish. On a fancy slide. I just put them in this little condiment tray here. And that's because then you can kind of, if you're spilling it and messing around, these little condiment trays and condiment cups, you can get them anywhere. Add them to your RayKitty Science Project kit because they are very, very handy to have around. So when we look at these here, when we look at them up a little bit closer, we're going to see if we can identify the same crystals that we saw last time. Now, I'm not going to attempt to point at them with my pencil this time because we are under a lot higher magnification and I would definitely not be steady-handed enough to do that. But let's look at these crystals here and see what kind we have. If we can guess from that last episode, what do you think this one here is? This is salt, okay? Table salt. And we can tell because it's nice and square, right? We see those nice square crystals that table salt forms. I'll see if I can dial that in just a little bit more here. There we go. And when we change the light a little bit, you'll be able to see kind of different facets of those crystals because we don't really think of salt as a 3D object, but salt is definitely a 3D object. And so we'll change our light source here, and you can see those crystals a little bit differently just by changing that light source. Okay? So now we're looking at it through a side light, and we can really kind of see the depth on those crystals. So the ones that we're looking at here are definitely salt because they're nice and square. So when those salt crystals form, they form nice and square. Let's move. Oh, I saw one. Let's see if I can be gentle enough to find it again. Look at this big long one here. Now, if you have a microscope at home, a digital microscope will normally, when I'm moving it, it'll move the direction that I'm actually moving it. A normal lens microscope will be reversed. Let's see, there we go. So I'm trying to go smoothly enough here. There's one. Yeah, this big long guy here. Let's see if I can get it. Move slowly. Okay. And there we go. So we can see these other guys that are in here that have got a different shape to them. Oh, wow, look, we can really see the square on that one. Let me find another one of our Epsom salt, not borax. And zooming around here. Oh, what do we got there? Now this one here, you can see that real random shape to it. That is actually sugar, okay? So we have these kind of crazy bumpy crystal shapes. As I'm changing it, this lens has got a very short focal length. So as I'm changing it, you can actually see this is really far down on that crystal, and this is up at the top, right? So we can see that crystal's nice and bumpy, right? So that one there is actually sugar, okay? So we can see that versus those nice square ones, that one has got a crazy bumpy shape. Now this big long guy here, it goes all the way off of the sides of the microscope there. But you can see how this one's bumpy, but it's a very nice, straight, long kind of spear. So that nice spear shape, we know that that is Epsom salt, okay? So we have our three that we saw on there. And I'm going to swap this out for this other little tray real quick. And then we're going to look at what we formed with these guys, okay? So let's see if we can find something a little bit different on here. And this one has borax crystals, actual borax. And this one has, I believe, also sugar. So we'll look at this one here and see what we've got. There you go. And let's dial it in again. There you go. Now look at that guy there. Now that is definitely sugar. That's a little bit smaller. But we can see all of those little bumps on there. And as like I say, we can kind of dial it in. So I'm going to change my light source to where we can see through it. There you go. And we can kind of see that shape. See how that one is nice and bumpy, right? Versus those nice square ones or even that nice long one. Okay? So these crystals have all got different shapes and different structures to them. So we're going to see what happens with the ones that we've made that we began crystallizing in our last episode. Okay? Now, we have 4 little trays here. I put some on onto our slides. So let's see how this guy here does. And this one, we'll see if we can figure out what that one is on our slide. And we can see those crystals forming versus what they were before. We have this nice little lattice structure that's happening there. This one here is sugar, right? So we have a nice, pretty little sugar crystals that are forming, and you can see that we have those crystals that are kind of our seed crystals that are still in there, those little bit larger ones, and the rest began to crystallize on there and giving us that nice pretty color. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to block out some of our light so that we see it from a different angle there, and we can see those taking the nice, like, we can see some pretty diamond shapes in there. And you can see, because we didn't do these too awful fast, that they get that nice pretty structure to them there. Okay, so we're going to go over this other slide was the borax, the actual borax. So we're going to see if we have any forming in that borax yet or not. We may, let's see. Not too much. That one's still pretty clear. The borax crystals make nice strong crystals, and they form fairly quickly, but not like as fast as some of our other ones do. Okay, so let's look now. We're going to start under the little bit lower power microscope. This is our tray that we began forming our Epsom salt crystals with last episode. If you can see this tray here, I can tilt it up because those are already pretty well formed. I'm actually going to pour off a little bit of that water because we have our crystals already forming on there. We can see that crystallization. The Epsom salt forms very fast. They're not very strong crystals, but they do form very quickly. So we're going to look at them first under this microscope here. And let's look at our Epsom salt crystals, okay? So put our little tray under there, and we'll dial it in a little bit. Oh, we can see we have nice large crystals there, okay? So we can see that we've formed, they're not beautiful, crazy crystals yet, but we have a lot. And you can see how they're all kind of gathered together. It looks kind of like if you went out and you saw like the ice forming on something. We have those little round things. Now, as they continue to form, we are going to get those nice long spears, but we can see that they're already giving us a nice large structure. So we're going to pull our borax, not borax. We're going to pull our Epsom salt over to this one here, and let's look what it looks at. Look at what it looks like under a little bit higher power microscope. Look at those guys there. So we can see that under this higher power microscope, we have those nice, real 3D bumpy structures there that we're getting. Shine my light on it. Those real nice big structures that have happened that are forming just from those tiny little crystals that we had before. Now, these are, they're still small, but compared to what we began with, these are pretty massive. And as you can see, like I said before, when we hold this one here, it is already all the way, formed into pretty much a solid around this. As we continue to let that water evaporate off of there, we would have a lot more of those crystals. These crystals would end up forming over pretty much anywhere where that water was touching. Okay, so if you are making crystals on something, save whatever you made it in because they will form. Now, you may be thinking, okay, well, you don't want to do this in your, in your fine china. Don't do it in your fine china. But all of these are very easy to dissolve again in water and wash off. So you don't have to worry about them not coming off of something. The Epsom salt ones, what we actually do around Christmas time is we will use them to make like snow and snowflakes on things to where things look like they've got all that snow built up on there. It's a wonderful effect for Christmas decorations and things like that because they form very quickly and it's very easy. So let's go over, this is our normal salt, table salt. We're going to see if it's began to crystallize yet. So we're going to come over here to this one and we're going to look at it under this microscope here. We'll see if we have any crystals. I have some letters. Those are just from the container lid there. We'll see if we have any crystallization forming in here. Kind of dial it in. We may or may not yet. I just see a bunch of little bitty bubbles. I don't see too much forming yet. I see a disgusting little fiber floating in the water. That's nasty. But we don't really have too much going on in that one yet, so let's switch over to our sugar. I'm going to do the same. I do see some crystallization happening, so I'm going to pour a little bit of that water away, and let's see what we have with our sugar under here. So we're going to pull our sugar underneath and see if we can pull into where that is. I'm pretty much just seeing bubbles in that one too. I have a little bit of crystals forming, and then another one of those fibers. That little fiber came off of my table here. That's really not a worm or a disgusting bug or anything like that. We'll do that in a future episode. But yeah, so we can see those crystals that are starting to form off of that sugar there. Again, very crazy, very random. So let's see if we can pull that one over here and look what our sugar looks like under a higher intensity microscope. Okay, so see if I can find it on there and see if we can find those crystals there. Let's see. And now we can see our bubbles. I see the bubbles. The bubbles are fun. You can actually see, if you look around the bubbles, you can see that the crystallization has begun around those bubbles. Do you see that? The bubbles don't look nice and smooth like a bubble normally looks. We have crystallization actually forming around those bubbles in there. So let's see, let's move it around a little bit, see what we've got. Mostly just a little bit around the bubbles. So this one hasn't begun to form too awful much. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens when sugar does form a crystal. This is candy. Okay, this is old-fashioned cherry sanded drops. Now it's not actually sand on there, but these are old-fashioned cherry sanded drops. This is candy. This is when sugar crystallizes and we get larger crystals, you can actually make that candy. So we're going to check it out on this one here and see if we can find some of that candy or those larger sugar crystals. Okay, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to change my light a little bit and go from that side light. And I'm going to bring that one up here. And we can see that nice red color. But that candy, we can see that it's larger now, but it really has the same kind of random crystal structure that our smaller ones had, because that's going to continue on and that it is a pattern, so it's not random, but the sugar makes a nice bumpy kind of crystal going on there. So we can see that. We're going to see what that looks like up even closer, and then we're going to get to some crystals that have been forming for a little bit longer. So we're going to go over here. Let's see what we've got on this one, and find my, oh, there we go. See if I can find it again. Now it's kind of tricky when I'm looking at the monitor, trying to move it around here. There we go. So we see the red, there it is. Now we can see up nice and close. It kind of looks like Mars or something like that. So that candy there has got that same crystal structure if you look at it very closely, which, I mean, we're looking at it very closely. But if you look at it closely, you can see that it still has that bumpiness to it. So we still have those crystals happening from those molecules, but we have a nice kind of larger pattern of kind of bumpy, crazy colors. Now I'm going to move our light here, and you can actually see through that candy a little bit, and you can see that same pattern continues on all the way through. Okay, so those are some kind of normal ones that we see. I have some crystals here that I borrowed from my daughter. She collects rocks and crystals and all of those wonderful things. So we have some neat ones. This one here is particularly pretty. If you can see this one here, this is, wait, I have it written on my piece of paper in case I forget. There you go. Here, she wrote me a cheat sheet. This is kyanite. So if you look at this, it really looks like a dragon scale. Okay. Now it doesn't normally have that color. They have treated it to give it that color, and these have been treated in the same way. This is actually a piece of quartz or a quartz crystal that has been treated also. This one has been treated a little bit differently. So you can see how instead of that like iridescence, we have just a nice pretty little fade going on there inside of it. So these are also crystals, but these have had a lot longer to form. So they have formed in the same way. You can see that we have two different types of crystals here, and we have two different shapes. These here have formed, it really looks like a large version of that borax crystal. Right? If you remember what the borax looked like, we had those spears, and this looks a lot like those spears. Now, on this rock here, we actually have little bitty crystals that have formed on this rock. This is actually peridot that is formed onto this rock. So we're going to look at these crystals under the microscope and see kind of some of the beauty in a little bit larger crystals, okay? So I'm going to bring my microscope way down so I don't end up scratching my lens with the peridot. Get it there so you can kind of see it. And I've got it at an angle so you can see it both with the camera and on my microscope here. So you can see as that light is shining, that peridot is beautiful, right? It is a very pretty green color. So we're going to look at it on the microscope, see if I can dial it in here without hitting my lens. There we go. Look at that. Yes. So instead of those tiny little crystals, look at these big, beautiful crystals of that peridot. And these are small, you know, these are still seed crystals on this rock here. That peridot would continue to get larger. They use it as a gemstone. So it is a gemstone peridot. And they use it in rings and things like that because it has that beautiful color. So as we move it around, I'm going to move it just a little bit here. And we can see more of those crystals. But you can see that beautiful color in that peridot. Okay, and so as we can see here, if we look on our rock, the same thing has happened. Okay, we have the same processes that have happened over time. It has deposits have landed on here that have seeded these little peridot crystals. Those molecules have formed a pattern. And so that pattern lattices out. And by lattices out, I just mean it kind of branches out in different patterns. And so it branches out into all these pretty patterns. And then we begin with these ones here. And the crystals would get larger and larger and larger. So let's see if we can. I don't think this one goes up high enough to check these out under here. We're going to see if we can check this one out under here real quick. And see if we can see those peridot crystals on this one. We're just going to give it a second because it may or may not show, but it is definitely pretty when it does. Get our light on there. See if we can see that structure again without touching my microscope. There we go. So we can see, now I've got a little bit of wiggle here because I didn't really tighten that microscope too much, but we can see those there. Every little bitty wiggle gives us a lot of movement, but you can see that we have a lot of that nice large crystals on that peridot. Okay, so let's check out some of our other ones real quick before we wrap up. This is that kyanite. Again, this color is not natural. That nice beautiful dragon color there is not natural. They've treated it to give it that color. But let's look at these guys under this one here. And see what these guys look like under this microscope. And we're going to see a way different crystalline pattern, okay? So let me pull it up on here. I'm going to get my side light on there. And look at that. Yeah, see, that is beautiful. So we can see that we have, I'm going to get my light just a little bit dimmer here. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, so we can see there that we have that nice, beautiful iridescence. And it looks, you know, kind of, I always say like a beetle back, right? So it kind of looks like a beetle back. And those crystals have formed in these nice, beautiful straight lines. Okay. Now, this one here we could put under the larger microscope, but you kind of lose it a little bit on that one. So we're going to go to our quartz, okay? And we're going to check out our quartz. We have our two different types of quartz. And so we'll check out this one here. They're actually the same type of quartz, but they've been treated in two different manners. So we have our quartz under here, and we are going to check out the serrations in there. Let me change my light just a little bit. Move that light around, and let's see if we can see all those lines, how it's formed into, there you go. You can see the little scratches on there, but look how it looks almost like maybe like a wood grain. You see all those lines in there? That's the crystal pattern, that pattern as it was forming, okay? And this one here, this one just is the same type, but we have a nice, pretty color on there, right? So we have that iridescent pattern on there, and we can see that as they've treated it, it's covered up a little bit of the inside, so you can't see through it quite as much. Let's see if we can get a little bit of the light through it. A little bit. And you can see how those lines are on there. I'm going to switch right back to this one here with that bottom light. And we'll be able to see through this one just a little bit better than the other. But yeah, there you go. Now you can see as I change that depth, that focal length, we can really see those lines in there. Okay, so what we have here are all different types of crystals. These ones here, of course, when you start with something like that, you say, well, I could definitely not make a crystal this large at home. Yes, you can. Okay. Now, it takes practice. It takes doing it over and over again. One that I did not do here today is alum. Okay, you can buy alum in a little jar in the spice section at the store, but alum will make a nice, large, beautiful crystal. What you want to do is you want to heat the water just like we did before, and you will put a little seed crystal in there. Alum will make a beautiful crystal. These other ones here, you're going to have nice crystal patterns. If you put them in an egg or put them on a shape or something like that, you can make little geodes. There's a lot you can do with crystallization at home, and it is a fun one. It is extremely inexpensive, and you can have a great time making crystals at home. Also, you can add a little bit of, I know I hate to say it, food coloring, right? Now, you can use food coloring, or like I use the little like flavor packets. You can color that water, and a lot of those crystals will absorb it, and you'll have a colored crystal rather than just the plain white. Okay, so we've talked about crystals, we've talked about how crystals are formed, and we've checked out a little bit of what they look like when you look at them a little bit closer. So I'm Mr. Dave, and as we end every piece of media we do, don't forget that science shows you matter.